This year for Valentine's Day, an estimated $116 will be spent per person on their Valentine. Of the popular gifts, candy is number one. But if you truly love your Valentine, you might be willing to put in that extra effort and make that box of chocolates entirely from scratch. But what exactly would that involve? Well, I'm gonna find out. The first step for making my chocolate bar entirely from scratch will be harvesting the fruit of a cacao tree. Since cacao is not native to Minnesota, I'm gonna have to head south to Mexico. There I met with Jose, who allowed me to harvest some of his cacao trees.
Mira, entonces aquí el cacao es muy interesante porque todo el año está produciendo, pero el grado de madurez de las mazorcas hay que conocerlo. Por ejemplo, esta ya está madura. Y aquí vamos a cortar otra que está ya madura.
I found it incredibly captivating to handle these strange, alien-looking pods that just grow out of a tree. I've never really made the connection that the delicious chocolate we eat actually comes from a tree's fruit. Should I go behind it?
Sí. Ahí.
And pull?
Pues. Ahí va. Bien.
There we go.
Sí. Muy bien. Esto ya está maduro.
A few cuts in it. I got it. Doesn't smell like chocolate.
¿Quieres probar?
Sure.
Mira.
Can I just eat this? It's like a bitter chocolate, but it also tastes like a fruit. Trying the raw cacao fruit really blew away my expectations. While having a slight bitter chocolate taste at the center, it mostly tasted like a regular fruit. Not at all what I expected. In order to capture that chocolate flavor and continue with the next step of turning these beans into actual chocolate, we went to Ruvio, who showed me the process of fermenting the beans. Once removed from the pod, the raw beans are placed into a container. Over the next few days, a combination of microorganisms grow and begin the fermentation process. Yeast turn the cacao sugars into alcohol, and other bacteria produce lactic acid and acetic acid. Together, these all help produce a distinct chocolate flavor in the cacao beans. During the process, the container can reach temperatures as high as 140 degrees Fahrenheit. After fermenting for 2 days, the beans are now swollen and have changed color, meaning they are ready to be sun-dried. Because they grow the higher quality Carrillo variety of cacao bean here, the total fermentation time is actually shorter because of the naturally more mild flavor of the bean versus other varieties such as the Forastero. Once the fermentation stage is done, the pulp around the bean will be completely dissolved and is drained off. The remaining beans then need to be dried in the sun.
Lleva 4 días de sol, así como está ahorita bien iluminado, son 4 días. Si hay nubes y está muy opaco, tiene que llevar 5 o 6 días.
Ruviel had me run the rake back and forth through the beans, turning the beans so that they would dry evenly. This needs to be done regularly, every hour and a half to 2 hours, for at least 4 days while the sun is out. My feet are too big, they don't fit between the paths.
Salga precisamente bien fermentada y bien seca, precisamente ya lista para envasarlo, para mandarlo precisamente al consumidor.
There's still one more step we need to do to capture that chocolate flavor. Roast them. Roasting the beans helps make the outer shell easier to remove, helps sterilize the beans, and improves their flavor. So after 30 minutes of roasting, beans are now done. You can tell they're done because the outer shell will just fall off, and that means it's good to go. I now have the cacao, but there's still one more ingredient I need for my chocolate bar while still in Mexico: sugarcane.
Vamos a cortarla una más zona. Una grande, esta te la voy a mostrar. Esa.
With my last Mexican ingredient collected, it's time to head back home after my long adventure in Soconusco region of southern Mexico and process all of my raw ingredients to make my chocolate bar. Back home, I needed to extract the sugar from the cane. Actually kind of smells like sweet corn. When I was boiled a while, got the syrup extracted, start fishing out sugarcane. After boiling for a few hours, just have a nice sugar syrup left over. Just gonna pour that out. However, it's important to remove all the moisture from my ingredients, as it could cause the chocolate to seize and ruin it, which means I'll need to further dehydrate both my sugar syrup and milk ingredients. After drying overnight in the dehydrator, the milk turned into a thin, crusty material, which I broke apart and ground up in my blender. Then I tossed my dried sugarcane syrup into a blender. In a matter of minutes, I had my sugar. Next, I'll need to remove the outer skin from my cacao beans. After 8 hours of repetitive motion, I finally had 4 pounds of my beans ready. Next, I took some of the beans and used an oil press to extract the cocoa butter I need for my chocolate. This was kind of a pain, and I think the oil ended up coming out of the wrong spot, but I did succeed at extracting enough cocoa butter. With all my ingredients finally prepped, I headed to Cool Chocolate, where I met with Peter.
Hey Andy, how are you?
Good. So what's the importance of the conching? Why is it a very important step?
Okay, mostly you're doing particle size reduction. In order for it to have a nice mouthfeel, you want to be at 20 microns or below in the size of the particles. Another part of it is that off flavors tend to evaporate, like the acetic acid that's from the fermentation, lactic acid, those will evaporate to some degree.
Yeah.
The reason we add the cocoa butter is that it gives you a more pleasant mouthfeel. We're going to put them in the quees and just buzz them up and roughly grate them so that they're small enough for the machines.
After grinding for a while, the once solid beans started to look like chocolate. So it's time to add the cocoa butter, sugar, and dried milk. After running the conching machines for 8 hours, we used a micrometer to measure just how finely the chocolate had been ground. With the chocolate finally at the right consistency, it was time to temper it.
We're going to take about half of this and just put it on the board. It's awkward if you're a righty. So then you move it around. This is to try to form all the same size crystals, beta 5 crystals, that make the chocolate have a nice snap and keep it from blooming. Blooming is where it turns white after it melts and hardens up again. Okay, yeah, see now it's kind of thick,
Yeah.
and it's all smooth. There's a test that people do that you take a piece of paper and you just dip it a little bit in like that. It should have a sheen on it. It shouldn't be dull. It should be shiny, and then it should also snap.
That means it's been tempered?
Then it's been tempered correctly, yeah. In case there's any bubbles, yeah, I had a little bubble there.
After quickly cooling in the fridge, Peter and I got to sample my freshly made chocolate.
We didn't do such a great job molding these. There you go. And it should be shiny. Yeah, it's got a snap. Yeah, it's tempered chocolate.
It's good. It's very dark. I can taste the fire roasting and the smoke to it, I think. It's good though.
I would call it rustic.
Rustic, yeah.
Not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
rustic. It's very earthy, and you can taste the smoke.
Yeah. So if you wanted to make your own chocolate bar from scratch, how much would it end up costing? Including the travel expenses and time for labor, you're looking at a $1,700 box of chocolates, which truly shows how much you love them. Or if you're single, it's just more chocolate for yourself.